What did they introduce around the 1900s? But education, right? So they didn't need the schools when the orphans, were kickstarting the economies and working in the factories. But when they all grew up and they had kids, well, they needed to indoctrinate the kids, right? Can't the kids asking questions? Got to make sure they work in the factories too. So enter the Rockefellers. Who came up with the Board of Education? It was John D. Rockefeller. Board was created 1902, and he donated an initial $1 million to its cause. The Rocker family would eventually give over $180 million to fund the General Education Board, and that's back in the 1900s. In 1830, Horace Mann, a Massachusetts legislator and secretary of the state's Board of Education, to advocate for the creation of public schools that would be universally available to all children free. There you go, come and get your indoctrination for free. Rockefeller, quote, I do not want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Rockefeller, the guy who funded the education system, again said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. Started the education system. Hello, hello. Did Rockefeller create the General Education Board? Well, it was established in 1903, yes, by John D. Rockefeller. Okay. Which meant that he basically then owned the board, right? He then got to say who was legit and who wasn't, what schools could be schools, who could be teachers. And he also ran the universities, got into it as well. So by doing this, they've just basically taken over indoctrination for everyone, right? Get them into school. And then, of course, then they keep working and they come up with TV and newspapers that start off as newsprint, went to TV, and that's another way that they indoctrinate us and also use the fear. So this is a big story, right? And it's still being played out, but we're getting near the end of it, I think. And this just tells you a bit more about the Board of Education. The American educational system began with the establishment of Congregationalist and Puritan religious schools in the 1600s. Their purpose was to provide religious-oriented instruction to upper-class children. So there you go. So the first schools were built by the churches, right? And it was all about, believe us, because if the churches lose that the next generation, they go broke because churches are charities, right? They survive off all their brethren, is that the right name? Giving them money, right? So of course they're going to be building their schools, indoctrinate all the kids, and at the same time get paid, right, to do it. Why not? Double dip. And this is just 23 pictures. Child labor, as you can see. I mean, they were all smoking and drinking because they were adults. They had to be adults, right? They were looking after themselves. A lot of them were paper salesmen. There was this big thing to do with the paper sales. It was actually the first union action, the first strike was actually by the paper sellers who were all orphans and street kids. Wanted small boys, apply first floor. Oh my God. I mean, there you go, right? Yeah. Sign outside the New York Button Works factory. So, that's for a job, we hope. There's that photo, famous one. A group of young girls on a break from their jobs as oyster shuckers. So there you go, they're oyster shuckers. I mean, how old are they? Like 5? What the hell? Oysters, so the rich rulers got to eat oysters. Oh, there you go, here you go. Josie, 6 years old, Bertha, 6, and Sophie, 10. Oh, Sophie's a bit short. Don't know which one she is. Look at this dude, right? A young boy smokes a cigar while he waits for work at a cigar factory. So there you go. He's getting them for free. 1909, a young girl, handful of shrimp while working at a shrimping dock in the 1900s. And I mean, look at, what she's wearing. God. Of course, the mines. Is this even on a track? What's going on there? In Gary, West Virginia, a boy applies brakes on the motor train in 1908. He works for 10 hours a day doing that. At the close of the day, men and boys stand inside a crowded cage to be transported up the mining shaft at the Pennsylvania Coal Company in 1908. And as you can see, most of those are children. Some more children. 3 young boys wait for a shipment of zinc ore to shovel at a mine near Aurora. So, they were doing heavy work. That wasn't just light stuff. They were the workforce. Richard Pierce, a messenger at the Western Union, blah, 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 in Delaware, 1910. So he was a postman. A pair of boys seen working on a spindle at a Georgia cotton mill. So there's lots of cotton mills, obviously, in the Americas. 13-year-old boy with a hand injury. He received working at a cotton mill. There you go. There's no safety at all. A young girl pauses for a portrait while working on spinning machines. And again, see, look what she's wearing. It's like it's high quality clothes, but it's just old. It's not hers, and it's clearly the only shirt she's got, right? A girl undergoes a medical examination at the Bureau of Child Services in order to obtain a work certificate. And she's just, I don't know, 12, 13 maybe. A teenage girl pauses from work as a spinner in Lancaster, South Carolina, circa 1902. She looks, I don't know, almost native Indian or, continental Indian, doesn't she? Group portrait, child workers employed by the Breaker, Pennsylvania Coal Company in Pittston, Pennsylvania, 1908. And don't they all look a bit covered in coal? But literally, that's the workforce. Kids. Small child carries loads of can at a food packing plant in Baltimore, Maryland, 1909. No shoes. All right. Boy, these guys got the good jobs, right? Setting up bowling pins at a late night bowling alley, 1909. I said lots of them sold newspapers. And a pair of exhausted girls stand from a break from their job as garment workers. Bloody hell. Hey guys, this is what we came from. 6-year-old girl working as a berry picker. Like, what the hell? This is what we came from. This is, people ask why there's problems in the world. I'd say that, a lot of them were instilled and they never got fixed. And look at this place where they are, man. I mean, this looks very steampunk. Several boys still at work, 9 p.m. night shift. Glass factory, Indianapolis in 1908. A young girl looks out of a factory window during her shift at a cotton mill, circa 1908. Just wishing she could play like the child she is. So there you go, right? That's it. That's what they were doing with our ancestors, great grandparents or whatever they were. Right. Our real ancestors. I agree that's, as far as we can see, that's what's happened across the realm. Native tribes seem to have escaped it a bit, but actually not at all in Australia. Like literally, there's a generation called the Stolen Generation in Australia because all the natives had their children just forcibly taken from them. And so they could be re-educated, right? I found a notebook from the early 1900s about tons of Hungarian orphans in Cleveland. Wow. Exactly. And this is what they were doing, right? They were shipping them from country to country so that no one was ever... And this is what I've thought about a lot because, there's an old atlas. Martin's shown it a few times. Can't remember which one it is. But it shows Africa pretty much inhabited by white people. Right? And now we're getting a lot of information out that America's always been inhabited by black people. So, did they switch the populations? Because 20 years ago, you would have thought America is white and Africa is black, the opposite. And this is what they do, right? It's all to confuse us and to get us into places where we come from. We don't know the land. We don't know who our ancestors are. We've got no connection. all that stuff.